So it's been a couple of days now since the boys finished, and I was going to do a video straight away about my reactions on it, all that stuff. But I decided to wait for a couple of days because obviously it's a bit up and down on reactions. And be honest with you, that's not a new thing because all throughout, especially big shows like Boys, Stranger Things, Game of Thrones, big shows that are mega shows that people are obsessed with, it all gotta have a mixed reaction towards the end. And this video is not about that, sort of. This video I want to do for years because there's been a debate about the boys' comics. Yeah, it's been a big debate about the boys' comics, saying that it's bad. The show done it 100 times better, and it is pure trash. Now, the thing is, I do agree there's a lot of stuff the show done better. I'm not going to be those people saying, oh, the comic is a masterpiece. Trust me, there is problems with the comics. And I will talk about that in this video. But, there's the big but. Is it really that bad? Is it really? Because this is the thing. During this final season of The Boys, I managed to get an amazing deal on Humble Bundle, but sadly, the deal ended now, where I got all the omnibuses on ebook for £13.50, which I thought it's an amazing deal because I think it cost $10.99 on Amazon to read on a Kindle, and it's a bit more on physical, I think. So yeah, it's an amazing deal to get all the omnibuses, for that price. Yeah, it's ebook, but it's still a good deal. So after The Boys finished, I'm still rereading it for the first time for years. And I don't think it's bad what people say it is. Now, it did problems, yes. But it's not bad. It still stands out in its own way. So, on this video, I will give my 3 what the show done better, and my 3 what the comics done better. Yeah, I can extend it for hours and hours long. This could be multi-parts if I want to do more reasons. But just for now, I'm going to pick my 3 favourites on each subject. So, let's get started, shall we?
Control Ho Chi Minh, Richard Nixon back again, moonshot, Woodstock, Watergate, punk rock.
A-Train. Yeah, the show done A-Train 100 times better, and the writing is night and day to the comics. I'm sorry, it is. It's night and day. Now, in the comics, A-Train was basically a parody character. He was an asshole. They have no development of, what he's doing is right or wrong. Yeah, again, I'm not saying, make him all good or that. At the end of the day, that was not the original version. But at the same time, there's more than being a parody character, and that's the problem was the first 3 omnibuses. That most of the characters were parodies, and including Homelander to a point that he wasn't that, until I said, once you get past around Omnibus 3. Now, in the show with A-Train, yeah, he was like that in the first season. But slowly, he started to realise his mistakes. He started realising that, obviously, he is deep down scared of Homelander. He's deep down scared that he's in a situation that he can't get out of. And also, he's losing people that he's close with. And not just that, he loses himself too. And this stuff during those seasons that he goes through. Like, what could the bit they try to do is Immus. Like, he tried to do a new Immus. He lost himself completely. He tried to do try his African tribe with that ridiculous outfit he wore. He done like sell commercials, like woke commercials, like the Pepsi commercial, sort of parody of, he was losing himself to a point that even his brother said, "Fuck you," know what I mean? you know, so his own family basically say, "Fuck you," know what I mean, to him, and slowly, he's sort of realizing all this, and even his death was more impactful compared to the comics. The comics, it was basically it was Huey getting angry. That's what it was. Huey getting angry, and he, ends him. But in the where it's in the show, Huey is still angry with him, but slowly, he started to forgive, because that's the thing too. What I love about it done in the show, he has a more big impact on the show. Like, for example, the bigger impact he had is both Buster and Huey. Now, people will say, wait, he didn't interact with much with Buster. Yeah, I know, but the reason why it still had a big impact on, Buster, because the whole thing with Buster is he hates soups to a point where I explain later. He does something in the comics and to the show too, where he takes them to the next step too far. That how obsessed with him wiping out the soups. Who he was like that at first, because obviously A-Train is the one that impacted on Huey in the beginning of the show and the comics. But the thing is, the reason why it works so well, because Huey, he was like that at first, but slowly, especially they met Starlight, and start dating her, on and off, but he still got feelings for yourself. Even once that happened, he started realising that these soups are human. Even though it's just the people that bought them up make them a bit fucked up, know what I mean? And basically, he started to realising his mistakes, especially in the last couple of seasons. And he started to forgive A-Train slowly. Yeah, it takes time, like realistic time, but I thought that was well written, and it shows you the opposite path of who he's going with compared to Billy Buster. That's why I thought the writing on A-Train doesn't impact on A-Train, it's impact on the characters, like I said, with Huey. So I thought it was genius. Like, it was well written. And yeah, one of my favorite characters. I thought I hate him, because I said I read the comics. He's awful in the comics. He's an arsehole. In this, where he died, it's poetic, because he died the first time you saw him. But he's done the opposite thing, where the first time you saw him, he ran through a woman and don't give a fuck about, her dying. And yeah, he does realise later on, obviously, that was awful. To a point that then he would run away from Homelander, that he knows the minute that Homelander gets him, he's gone. He had a choice of run over the woman or take that fall, and he chooses to take the fall because he knows he is human. He got, it's at a heart now. And it's genius. Like, it's well written. So yeah, A-Train is probably one of the best parts on the show, know what I mean? So yeah, A-Train.
Control, Ho Chi Minh, Richard Nixon back again, Moonshot, Woodstock, Watergate, punk rock.
The boys group is slightly better in the comics. Now, I'm not going to strike off the main group in the show. Obviously, they done a good job. Betty the cast performed their parts. They done an amazing job. I'm not taking that away from any of them. But I still think this group feels more threatening and a bit more deep in their story. Yeah, we do have elements, especially in the early seasons of the show, that on the TV series, we do have those deep elements. But the problem is, the more we get later on, I feel like more like side characters than, more depth characters. Like, but this is the weird thing. In the comics, like I said before, in the first it had the opposite problem in the show. In the comics, in the first three omnibuses, yeah, they are threatening, and yet you do know them a bit more. But the show done better on those bits. But they towards the end, the comics done a better job with the backstories, with them feeling like proper threat to superheroes, to soups. Like some stuff they do compared to the show, it's miles. It again. I can't say because obviously, yeah, they feel like it took down as yeah, it's hard to explain some stuff they done. Trust me, you think some of the stuff what the TV show done, they done a lot more worse. Trust me on some of the stuff, messed up stuff they done to soups. Know what I mean? And we went on the show. It had a good start with the backstory of that, but again, towards the last, I'd say, 2.5 seasons, it got a bit mixed. Like, especially with Frenzy. Yeah, we all know, the big controversial last season that he was bi, all that stuff. But there was no. Again, I'm not bothered that he is. But my problem is, it's just one in the comics. There's obviously he has got a love interest, and two, it felt out of nowhere, and then they forget about it, and then in the last season, they decided to follow more to the comics. Yeah, and then got Mother's Milk. Yeah, this is the thing. Mother's Milk is a hard one to do because his backstory is a good backstory, but at the same time, it's freaking weird, especially with his powers in the comics. And again, you talk about milk being the main theme on the show with Homelander. Yeah, Mother's Milk. Yeah, know what I mean? So, I understand you want to change it, but I wish they follow more in depth with it because it is a good backstory, especially with his family, with his with his family, history. It is a very good backstory. It's just I do mention it, but I wish they put a bit more on me, and compared to the comics, because only one died in the whole freaking group in the show. The impactful is not as strong to the characters compared to the comics. And again, I'm not taking away from the cast who done the performance. I think they've done an amazing job still. It just I feel more connected to Warrior Core, to the comics boys group, you know what I mean? That's all. So yeah.
Control, Ho Chi Minh, Richard Nixon back again. Moonshot, Woodstock, Watergate, punk rock.
Yeah, the show has better opening. As I said before, for the first time for years, I am rereading the original boys comics. As I got a good offer on the whole collection on ebook during the last season coming out. And I gotta agree with this, that the show done a better opening because in the first three omnibus, even though it has good elements in there, like the first issue, the way A-Train kills Huey's girlfriend, I gotta get credit. That was more brutal. The comic is more brutal, to be fair, because freaking hell, that is just yeah. I know the one the show that she in pieces, but the show was in the comics was yikes. Know what I mean? Now, except from that, mostly was shock humor, like parodies of superheroes. And that's what it was. It's parodies of Batman, X-Men, all that stuff. Main focus on the first three omnibuses. And it was a bit of drag to get through. Even though it was some good elements in there, it was a bit of drag to get through with the story. It's not until after you get past volume omnibus 3, the story kicks in with twists and with better with Homelander is moving forward with the story. So yeah, I think the show had the better opening than the comics. So,
Control, Ho Chi Minh, Richard Nixon back again, Moonshot, Woodstock, Watergate, punk rock.
yes, I thought the ending on the comics is better. Now, we'll get out of the way. I'm not saying the dumb clone twist of the Black Mirror, the Homelander, the real Homelander is a clone, and Black Mirror is the main Homelander. I'm not saying that, because that is dumb, and that's one of the bits that I think the show done better on, and it's benefit better not using that as a twist of the show. But one thing it did end better on, which I'll explain a bit more in detail in a minute, because this is one of the positive thing what the comic's done, is the way it ended Billy Butcher story. It was more impactful, and it was more heartbreaking compared to the show. And again, I'll go a bit more in detail in a minute on that, because obviously my last one is a big one of all with Billy Butcher. So, I know this is a bit of a short one, but what I'm saying, I think the comic ended better. And also it had a better build-up to the climax. Especially with again, this is not confirmed, but there's rumours that there's leaks, and according to the leak, if this is real, the leaks are real. Yeah, where was that build up, know what I mean? I wish we had that build up, know what I mean? I'll be honest, yeah, I think it's probably true the leaks, because you got all the posters, know what I mean? Where was all that in the Ferrari? You know what I mean? On the show. So yeah. Even though it had one dumb moment in the comic on the ending, I still think, personally myself, it's more impact. So, let's get to the next one.
Control, Ho Chi Minh, Richard Nixon back again, Moonshot, Woodstock, Watergate, punk rock.
Yeah, Homelander. Homelander, I know people are bitch and moan, because just a thing too, since that episode came out, the last episode came out, the death of Homelander, a lot of people was upset, saying that he died like a bitch, he died like a wimp, he's a coward. And I'm like, how you watch the show? How you watch the show from beginning to end? It makes sense him got out like that. One, he was spoon fed as a kid that he's a special, gift from God, basically. And yeah, he may got tortured by, scientists, all that stuff, but he's still spoon fed with all the ideology of being a great American, or where he said you're special, you're like a god, basically. He's been spoon fed all that, and also he never got taught about, humanity, basically being a human, know what I mean? Because you see it all through the show, the way he scares people, the way he intimidates people with his powers. And the minute that he lost all that, it makes sense to act like that. And also, the other signs too, Bitter. For fix's sake, he had a mental breakdown that he had one grey hair. For fix's sake, I got some here. And you don't see me, going psychotic, you know what I mean? And that's because I was brought up right. I was brought up being, a human, you know what I mean? That we all know we're going to get old. But Homelander in the show was, like I said, not that. He is not that at all. For fix's sake, he got jealous at a baby at one point, know what I mean? So, yeah, it makes sense him to be a bitch. Then he lost all his powers and him begging for his life, know what I mean? It did. So, yeah, I think what the show done, it made Homelander a better character. He's threatening. And I don't care, he probably is one of the best villains we got in the past 10, 15 years in media. That's how good this villain is, and the actor who performed him. done an amazing job. So, yeah, Homelander, well done. Well done for making Homelander like this because it's well written. So, we'll get to what the comics done better, Sally.
Control, Ho Chi Minh, Richard Nixon back again. Moonshot, Woodstock, Watergate, punk rock.
Okay, this might be a bit of controversial one, but I think just slightly, the Big Buster in the comics was a bit better. And again, I'm not, taking away from the actor who, performed Big Buster on the show. He done an amazing job. He done an amazing job. He was too perfect to a point. Now, the reason why the comics done better is basically the way it ends Big Buster in the show. Now, a hint this in the show that Big Buster is losing his humanity. He's going more in ways of vengeance. He was focused more on vengeance. He don't care about being human no more. He's becoming what he hate the most, especially then he got his powers. We have for that was genius. He done that. He built that so well, and it's on par in the comics in a way where Big Buster was, like I said, he was obsessed to do the genocide on all troops. He cannot stand troops. Even if it's someone are good, he don't care. He want no troops. That's how much he hates troops. He wants to do a genocide basically. And to a point in the comics that he got obsessed, he wiped out his own group. Yeah, after he'd done his mission, taking out Homelander, well, the real Homelander, he doesn't stop there. He just said, fuck it. And yeah, the show does follow that. He said, oh, fuck it. Especially when the dog died, his dog died. But the difference is, in the, show, he doesn't go to the boys. He doesn't kill the boys. Because in the comic, he kills basically all the boys except for Huey. And then it's a final showdown with Huey and Buster. And Buster pushes him to the edge of killing him. Now, in the show, he do that pushing thing. Like, he does push Huey to kill him. But the reason why the comic's done better is Buster pushed it. Like I said, he wiped out his own group. Mother's Milk, Frenchie, anyone, basically. He wiped out basically anyone. And he pushes Huey to a point that he would start insulting him about, his past. And then Huey just snaps and kills him. And it was well built up. Now, like I said, in the show, because we didn't have Buster take that next step, even though he hinted it, especially more in the last season, in season 4, where Buster picked up the powers and he's, especially the way, don't give a fuck about, being a human no more. He just toned it down, like, no. Yeah, he still dies. Buster still dies in the way I said in the show. But the build up was not there. And that's because one of the big mistake they done to the finale, which I thought didn't make sense I first watched it, was it made it an hour long basically. Which to me personally it should have been an hour and 40 or 2 hours. Yeah, I know people are gonna say, but there's no point dragging shows that you don't need to. But no, this need it. This need that extra 40 minutes. Because one whole one is gone, got half an hour left, and all this stuff I just said make no sense. Yeah, it's the same thing with what he done basically his wife's son, one who Hoan rapes and got a kid, him, he's said, I don't know you no more. I'm going. And you're all awful human being, just like Homelander. And then the final step was then his dog died. That got him. Yeah, okay, that's good. But I still will have him killing the boys. I know it's people say that's too dark. Well, that's what the whole point of the boys is. It's not happy dubby. For fig's sake, it's not a happy ending still because, like I said, the company Vox, what I call it, it's still gonna make superheroes. So it's not a happy ending. That's the whole point of the boys. So yeah, I think the comic done Babe Buster better just because of that one bit. So yeah.
Control, Ho Chi Minh, Richard Nixon back again. Moonshot, Woodstock, Watergate, punk rock.
So on my conclusion on this whole thing, I think it both just as good. Yeah, it both got problems, obviously, it have. But end of the day, it's still, compared to other franchises that got adaptations, that, took elements or ideas and, went with it. It could be worse. I mean, I'm going to use a manga for example, which is very infamous because it's an amazing manga and it went downhill after the first season, which is Promised Neverland. If you remember that anime, that is an amazing masterpiece first season. Fantastic writing, fantastic world building. And what he tried to do in season 2, we're crammed over 80 or 90 chapters into one season to end it. And that means a lot got cut out. And that means it didn't make sense. And to be fair with the boys, yeah, it made a lot of changes. But a lot of those changes worked for its benefit. But at the same time, the comic is not bad that you say, oh, it's trash. You can still read it. It's still good. It still has its moments that saying, oh, this is good writing. But obviously there's some bits in there that's so improved on. And that's how you do it at a tasting. And also, at the same time, you expect both pieces of work. And yeah, could the boys end up better on the show? Yes. Could the comics could have been better at the start in the first 3 omnibuses? Yeah. But you got to understand, at the time of the on the comics, I think it was the first 8 issues, it wasn't won by the current company, it was won by DC Comics until it got took off, know what I mean? So it wasn't messing around on identity for a while for the boys. It's until it got its own impact. So deep down, I think he could have rewrite it again. He could have done, but at the same time, it's not the worst piece of work I read. So yeah, to that debate what people said for years, is the comics bad? No, I think the comic is amazing. I think it is a fantastic piece of literature. Now, is it Watchmen standards? Is it that level? No. But at the same time, it made a good world. It made, interesting characters that people took to inspire by, and also, what I said, to dwell better in what I said in the show, like A-Train, for example. So, yeah, that's my conclusion on all this. I think people are overreacting. I think people need to reread the comics again to realise it's not awful. At the same time, there are people who's hating the show for petty reasons. Because this thing, yeah, I got problems with the Ferrari. Like, I done like a media review on the season on my TikTok. And my score is not low. I give it 7.5 out of 10 the whole season. Because my main 2 problems, and that's with the whole show. One, it feel like it's more setting up for that new show we're getting, Rock Rising, because especially in the last episode, that was heavily hinted at. You know what I mean? And two, the finale. I wish it was on for another 40 minutes and an hour. I think it was too short. And again, if they could have told the story in an hour, yeah, go for it. You got end your story in an hour. Don't drag it. But the problem is, it feels like this stuff missed the day you're watching it. The build, like the moment with Homelander, begging for his life. I'm not. Like I said before, I'm not against that. I think that was well written. It makes sense if you watch the show from day one. So all this stuff saying that, oh, he's a bit downgrade, fig off. It makes sense. It's good writing on that bit. The bit that is not good writing, that makes no sense, is the way he handled Baby Buster near the end. Yeah, it done two moments that, like I said before, he turned. Like I said before, with what I call his wife's son, deciding to go with him, and his dog dying. But in the comics, he took that to the next step by, going for his own group. And it hinted that in the last season that he was going to that path. So I don't know why he done that. And also, again, I'm not believing the rumors, but there's probably leaks saying that in the little version that Baby Buster was gonna be alive. I'm like, no, that's awful. I think that's even worse. Yeah, the other bit in the leaks that sound cool and amazing, especially the build up to the final battle with Homelander, which I wish they put in if this is true, you know what I mean? And again, I'm not saying it's true, because at the end of the day, it could be bullshit. But if all that leaks is true, the build, I wish that was in it. But the final battle with Homelander, and Buster, I thought that was good, done well. It's just the build up was a bit. I agree. I wish they put a bit more on that. And the main ones that just then is Baby Buster. I wish his moment was not so quick. Fix it. It's half an hour long, and that includes all the gang saying goodbye. You know what I mean? So it's not enough. You know what I mean? So again, I'm not these people saying, "Oh, it's 1 hour 10. It's the worst finale ever." No. Compared to Game of Thrones, Game of Thrones and Lost. Go back to those two finales, especially the hype those two shows have at the time, especially Lost. Oh my god, I think Lost is a bit worse because the reason why Lost was worse because of on the first episode, we all joked about, oh, it's all dead. It's just them, what I call it, go to heaven slow, you know what I mean? And basically that was basically was, you know what I mean? It was awful white. It was awful the way it ended Lost. Especially all the bullshit saying that, oh, you're never gonna guess it, and guess what? We all fucking guessed it. You know what I mean? So again, like I said, The Boys is not the worst finale. Now, what I do agree with, the A season is stronger. It is. But again, this might shock people. That's most shows. Even masterpiece of shows. Most shows are stronger in the A seasons. That's how it works. That's how it works, sorry. So yeah. That's my whole conclusion of this. So, if you want to see more videos like this, it's me talking about random subjects, please like the video. And subscribe to my channel. You want to see more videos like this. So, this is the way who cares. See you on the next one.